Researchers conducted a study about the effects of reading to children. They measured the number of words that two groups of 5-year-olds knew. The data are summarized in the two density curves. Determine whether each statistic was greater for group 1, group 2, or equal for both groups. Select one box per row. All right, so we need to look at the two graphs here, and the first one we see that it has group 1, it has density and number of words. It's important to see that density and number of words. It's important to see that both the data on each axis is the same and that the scale across the bottom and up the side is the same. So when we're comparing these, if the graphs were not to the same scale, it would be a little bit harder to see this just by visually looking at it. But there's a lot we can tell by looking at this. All right, so determine whether the mean is greater for group 1, group 2, or equal for both groups. So the first thing we need to do is know where the mean is. So the mean is going to be in the center of the normal distribution curve. So the mean for group 1 is going to be just above 2,000, and for group 2 the mean is between 1,000 and 2,000. So that means the mean is greater in group 1. So we need to check the mean is greater in group 1. All right, the next thing we need to look at is standard deviation. So is the standard deviation greater for group 1, for group 2, or equal for both groups? So standard deviation is how far the data deviates from the mean. So you can see how wide the graph is basically shows how much it deviates. So this normal distribution curve goes from just above 1,000 to just below 3,000. And if we look at this one here, it goes from about 500 to about 2,500. So this one goes a little bit wider. It's not quite as tall, but it's a little bit wider, which means the standard deviation is a little larger. So group 2 would have a larger standard deviation. You're just kind of eyeballing it, but the fact that you can tell that this one goes from about 1,500 to 3,000, that means that's a difference of 1,500 for your normal distribution curve for the most part, for the, the main parts of the normal distribution curve, not counting the outliers. And then for group 2, it goes from about 500 to 2,500, which is 2,000 words. So this one would obviously be just a little bit greater.